In this episode of Need to Know Influencer Marketing, we talk about the successful Breaking2 campaign from Nike and another brand mishap, this time with Chanel. Hello, marketing fanatics. I'm Mark Fidelman of Fanatics Media, marketing that influences. Joining me is Gil Ayal, CEO of Hyper. Welcome, Gil.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Yep, this is episode 5, my friend, so we're rolling right around.
Exciting stuff.
Today, Gil, we're going to discuss the Nike Breaking 2-hour campaign. This is a marathon that they were going to break in 2 hours, and the Chanel Boomerang Backlash. Let's start with the Nike Breaking 2-hour marathon campaign.
Breaking the 2-hour marathon barrier is impossible. Everyone knows that. History knows it. Science knows it. Anyone in their right mind knows it. It's crazy. Nobody can run that fast for that long. So, we're doing it.
So, Nike equipped 3 marathoners with variations of its Zoom Vaporfly Elite sneaker. I haven't seen this sneaker before, but I'm sure marathoners know what it is. In a race in Monza, Italy. Now, the race wasn't officially sanctioned, but they were able to beat a world record, and they almost beat the 2-hour mark. They just missed it. One of the marathoners missed it by 30 seconds. For me, to have my product associated with breaking a world record, especially one that's pretty famous, you know, the marathon, is a big win. What's your take, Gil?
I think it's a great example of using influencers correctly. People who are experts, you know, these marathon runners know which shoes work for them. I think from a marketing perspective, it's a great thing for the industry. I don't know if it's enough of a difference maker for a market leader, because now Adidas is doing the same thing and saying, well, here's our shoe and we're going to have our people run. And you're basically cementing the leadership of the 2 or 3 biggest companies who are going to be competing on this, but they already own most of the market.
Yeah, they already own most of the market, so Adidas should naturally do this, and any other up-and-coming shoe company should do the same thing. If they could find somebody that could break that 2-hour mark, that would be phenomenal. The campaign did generate millions of views on Facebook, Twitter. I think the other one was YouTube, in fact, with their video. So I saw it as a success. The lesson here for me with most brands, especially if you're a shoe brand, find somebody that can beat the Nike record. That'll get a lot of press. But if you have a product that can break a record and you do it with an influencer with a large following, give us a call, because we'll help set it up and we'll help generate the same amount of press, even more press. I think Nike kind of underplayed this a little bit. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they were a little nervous, possibly a little nervous that the results would be bad. There's a lot of risk.
What if it went bad?
What if it would have taken 2.5 hours, you know? So it was the problem. But I think this is exactly how to do it, which is don't just pick big influencers. Pick big influencers that matter in your space, whether it's because they have the right audience or because they're considered experts in your space. And I think that's the one thing they did really, really well. And then obviously tying it with the world record is something that's going to get people excited. I encourage it. Everybody who's doing influencer marketing should be thinking that way.
All right, now let's go to yet another brand mishap with Chanel. They created a $1,325 boomerang. Who gives a crap about something that's expensive, that's a boomerang, that's only used for huntsmen and sportsmen? But some people in Australia, you know, the Aboriginal culture, has found it, let's say offensive, and they've said Chanel has exploited their culture. So I'll just give you my point of view on this, and I agree with both sides really, but I side with the brand on this. The brand did not go into this thinking they're going to insult, a culture. No brand worth their salt is going to do that. And I think for most brands, it's really impossible to try and figure out how every culture across the 8 billion people that are on Earth, who it's going to offend. So I just think this is much ado about nothing. I do understand the cultural sensitivities. What do you think, Gil?
As a Jewish person, I sometimes look and see how the Jewish people are offended by certain things, and sometimes I say, well, that's right. There was a brand that came out with Holocaust uniform T-shirts. That's offensive. And then there are other times where people are just offensive because it has a Jewish star, and I say, come on, let's just not look to be offended. So I'm not familiar enough with the Aboriginal culture, what this boomerang means to them. In fact, aside from knowing that it has something to do with Australia, that's all I knew about boomerangs up until a few days ago. So it's hard to say. I mean, maybe it is really, really offensive, and maybe there's something there that we don't know. But based on the amount of backlash that it actually receives, I don't think it was that offensive. I think there was maybe a group of people who wanted to be offended or that are very sensitive to this.
You know, there was an influencer involved, Jeffree Star. He's the one who posted about this, throwing this boomerang. It got a lot of attention, but he also received a lot of backlash. I think the whole thing is horseshit for me. I mean, that's just my point of view. Yes, the boomerang was used by Aboriginals, but it's also used by Europeans. It is a part of their culture, a very important symbol of their culture, but I just can't see comparing it, and I know you didn't do this, to the Holocaust. Those are two completely different things. Chanel did apologize. I don't know why, but they're still selling them, that you could still buy this offensive, quote-unquote offensive boomerang. I don't know who would buy this $1,325 boomerang. What sportsman or hunter is going to buy this thing?
I'm more offended by the price than anything. I mean, how stupid do you think I am? I could buy these for like $6.95 on Amazon. What's going on? So they should. I mean, if anything, it's like, okay, this is so special. This costs $1,400. But look, you know, people are sensitive. As a brand, you have to be cautious. You have to be smart. You don't always have to be right. And if you think there's a risk, it's worth looking into. I happen to know from my research that they've been selling boomerangs for 10 years now. Nobody's ever come up. So we're in a different age today. Social media, it's much easier to complain. I don't think I've ever heard a complaint before. And they've sold boomerangs for some reason.
Gil, thanks again for joining us. Gil is CEO of Hyper. We use Hyper all the time. I just did a 20-page presentation with a bunch of hyper-influencer profiles. The client loved it. It helped us close the business. So with that, Gil, where can they find Hyper?
We're at www.hyprbrands.com, and we'd love to chat with you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.